Cruise lines are tightening their rules on everything from health screenings to travel documents. New boarding policies could stop you from sailing if you're not prepared. Here's what you need to know before you head to the port. Number 1. Stricter health requirements. Even a cough could get you denied. One of the biggest reasons passengers are getting turned away is health policies. Cruise lines are cracking down on any sign of illness, and they have the right to deny boarding if they think you're a risk. A bad cough, fever, or even severe allergies might be enough for them to stop you. You may feel fine, but if a crew member thinks you look sick, you could be pulled aside for a health screening, and you won't get a refund if they don't let you board. Even worse, some cruises still have vaccination and health form requirements depending on your destination. If you're traveling to certain countries, you might need proof of vaccines for yellow fever or other illnesses. If your paperwork isn't perfect, you're not getting on that ship. Before you sail, check with both your cruise line and the official government health websites of the countries you're visiting. It's the only way to be sure you're covered. The frustrating part? You might not even feel sick. Maybe you just had a long flight, you're jet-lagged, or your allergies are flaring up. It doesn't matter. If the crew thinks you look unwell, they can send you straight back home. And let's be honest, airports, hotels, and packed cruise terminals are full of germs. It's a good idea to boost your immune system before your trip. Stay hydrated, get plenty of rest, and maybe even pack some vitamin C and zinc to keep yourself feeling 100%. Also, if you have any pre-existing medical conditions, make sure you have a doctor's note explaining them. Some passengers have been turned away because their symptoms looked like something contagious when they weren't. A little preparation can go a long way in making sure you actually get on the ship instead of watching it sail away without you. Number 2. Passport and ID rules are tighter than ever. One mistake and you're out. In the past, cruise lines were a little flexible with passports and IDs. Not anymore. If your passport expires within 6 months after your cruise, some countries won't let you in and the cruise line will stop you at the terminal. Even if you're on a closed-loop cruise, one that starts and ends in the US, you could still run into problems if your ID doesn't meet new regulations. And don't assume a birth certificate is enough. If you're using one instead of a passport, it must be an official copy with a raised seal. A printed or photocopied version will not work. People are learning this the hard way at the check-in desk. If you don't have the right ID, it doesn't matter how much you paid, you're not getting on the ship. It's shocking how many people show up at the terminal only to realize their passport is expired or invalid. Some travelers don't even check their documents until the night before. Don't let that be you. Set a reminder months before your trip to review your passport and ID situation. If anything needs to be renewed, get it done early. Rush processing can be expensive and last-minute appointments at passport offices are tough to get. And here's another tip. If you've recently changed your name due to marriage or other reasons, make sure your cruise reservation matches your legal documents exactly. Even a small difference, like using a maiden name on one document and a married name on another, can create major problems at check-in. Double-check everything in advance, or you could end up waving goodbye to your cruise from the dock. Number 3. Visa and travel restrictions. One missing document can ruin everything. Cruise destinations are changing their entry rules, and if you don't have the right visa, your cruise line will not let you board. Countries like Brazil, China, and parts of Europe now require travelers to apply for a visa ahead of time, even for short stops. Many passengers don't realize this until they're standing at the terminal. By then, it's too late. Even if your cruise line doesn't mention it in your booking confirmation, it's your responsibility to know what documents you need. Some countries will deny entry if you've traveled to certain places in the past, or if you have specific stamps in your passport. Before your trip, check the visa requirements for every single country on your itinerary and give yourself enough time to apply. If you wait until the last minute, you could be out of luck. And here's the catch. Some visas take weeks or even months to process. You can't just assume you'll get approved overnight. Some countries require in-person appointments at their consulates, and others have strict rules about what kind of passport photos they accept. If your application has a tiny mistake, they might reject it, leaving you scrambling at the last minute. Also, if you're taking a repositioning cruise that stops in multiple regions, the visa requirements can get complicated fast. You might need multiple visas for different countries, and each one could have different entry rules. The best move? As soon as you book your cruise, research every country on your itinerary and start applying for the necessary visas right away. Otherwise, you could find yourself stuck at the terminal while your ship sails away without you. Number 4. Financial and payment issues. You could be denied over a simple banking error. Imagine showing up at the port, luggage in hand, only to be told your cruise wasn't paid for. It happens more often than you think. Some cruise lines require your final payment weeks before the departure date, and if your credit card is declined or your travel agent makes a mistake, you could lose your trip without warning. Third-party booking sites can be risky too. If there's a problem with your reservation, like a missing confirmation or incorrect name, you might not be able to fix it at the last minute. Before you travel, check your cruise balance, confirm your payment went through, and triple-check your booking details. One small error can cost you the entire trip. It's not just the cruise fare you need to worry about. Some passengers have been caught off guard by unpaid port taxes, fuel surcharges, or gratuity fees that weren't included in their booking. If the cruise line can't charge your card for these last-minute costs, they can refuse to let you board. Always check your reservation details to see if there are any outstanding balances. And don't forget about onboard expenses. If your bank flags your credit or debit card for unusual activity when you try to make a purchase on the ship, you might not be able to pay for drinks, excursions, or even Wi-Fi. Call your bank before your cruise and let them know you'll be traveling to avoid getting locked out of your funds. A little preparation can save you from a financial nightmare on vacation. Number 5. Security screenings are stricter than ever. Could you be flagged? Cruise lines are enforcing tougher security checks, and passengers with criminal records, even minor ones, are being turned away. Some countries won't allow anyone with certain offenses to enter, and if a port on your itinerary has strict entry laws, you won't even be allowed on the ship. Doesn't matter if it happened years ago, if the country says no, your cruise line will block you from boarding. And it's not just criminal history, banned items can also cause big problems. Many passengers don't realize that CBD products, surge protectors, alcohol, and even certain snacks are not allowed. If security finds something prohibited in your bags, you could be stopped at check-in and in some cases denied boarding altogether. Always check your cruise line's latest prohibited items list to avoid any surprises at the terminal. The most surprising part? Some common medications are banned in certain countries. If you take prescription medication, check the regulations of every country you're visiting to make sure it's allowed. Some travelers have had their medicine confiscated, while others have been denied entry altogether. It's better to know in advance than to have security flag you for something that could have been avoided. And if you have TSA pre-check or global entry, don't assume that will speed up security on a cruise. Cruise terminals have their own security processes, and sometimes they're even stricter than airports. Be prepared for long lines, thorough bag searches, and potential questioning from customs agents. The last thing you want is to be caught off guard right before your vacation even starts. Number 6. COVID-19 protocols. A positive test can cancel your trip. The pandemic has led to strict COVID-19 protocols on cruise ships. Even if you feel fine, a positive test result can deny you boarding. Some cruise lines require testing before embarkation, and if you test positive, you and your travel party might be barred from boarding. Policies vary, but many cruise lines offer compensation or future cruise credits if this happens. However, it's crucial to check the specific COVID-19 policies of your cruise line before your trip to understand the implications fully. Additionally, some destinations have their own COVID-19 entry requirements. For example, certain countries may require proof of vaccination or additional testing upon arrival. Failing to meet these requirements can result in denied entry at specific ports, affecting your cruise experience. Always verify the COVID-19 regulations for each destination on your itinerary to ensure compliance and avoid disruptions. And don't assume these rules are set in stone. COVID-19 policies are constantly changing. What was allowed last month might not be allowed now. Some cruise lines still require masks in certain indoor areas, while others may have restrictions on buffet dining or social distancing rules in place. Always check the latest updates from your cruise line before departure to avoid any surprises. Another thing to consider is travel insurance. Some policies include COVID-19 coverage while others don't. If you test positive before or during your cruise, having the right travel insurance can save you thousands of dollars in cancellation fees and medical expenses. It's a small price to pay for peace of mind while you're sailing. Number 7. Electronic travel authorizations. New requirements could catch you off guard. Some countries now require electronic travel authorizations, ETAs, for visitors, including cruise passengers. For instance, the United Kingdom has implemented ETAs, and travelers without one have been denied boarding. The application process involves submitting personal information and paying a fee, and approval isn't always immediate. Failing to secure an ETA before your trip can result in being turned away at the port. It's essential to research the entry requirements of each country on your cruise itinerary. ETAs are becoming more common, and not having the necessary authorization can ruin your vacation. Check with your cruise line and the official government websites of the countries you're visiting to determine if an ETA is required and how to obtain one. What makes this tricky is that ETAs often look similar to visas but aren't the same thing. Some travelers assume they can just show up with their passport and be fine, but immigration officers won't let you through without the right paperwork. It's an easy mistake to make, and one that could cost you your entire cruise. To avoid this headache, don't wait until the last minute. Some ETAs take days to process, and if there's an issue with your application, you might not have time to fix it before departure. Double-check your itinerary, apply early, and keep all confirmation emails handy just in case. The last thing you want is to be held up at security while your ship sails away.